Hello listeners and welcome to the Montel Weekly Podcast, bringing you energy matters in an informal setting. In today's pod, we'll talk about Denmark again. 2 weeks ago, the guests on our podcast discussed the vast returns the country's energy traders enjoyed in 2022, as well as the bonuses they received and allegations of market manipulation. We will hone in on these areas, but from a different perspective. It's clear who made billions, but who paid. Was it just the stupid traders, as we heard 2 weeks ago? And how have consumers in the country reacted? Will the industry face more regulatory scrutiny? And how is the government likely to react? Helping me, Richard Sverrisson, to discuss this and much, much more is Mogens Pilgaard Sørensen, an independent consultant. Welcome to you, Mogens, and welcome on the pod.
Thank you very much, Richard. Nice to be here.
Absolutely. What was your reaction then? Well, I mean, to the bumper profits being enjoyed by these Danish energy firms?
The insurers held up quite huge, and of course, traders in Denmark have been around for years, and they are very clever as well, top of the art, right? But I believe that looking at the bonuses as well and what went on last year is troublesome from my perspective as being an independent consultant and only working on behalf of the consumers. The real or the main issue started already in late 21 and the start of 22, actually before all around the invasion of Ukraine, where some of the big utilities in Denmark, they were out saying that, okay, now the energy prices are this high, we won't offer our services to customers to be able to hedge or do risk management on firm price agreements anymore because we believe the prices are too high, right? And of course, that was around February, right, where they completely stopped it, more or less all of them at once. But prices just went skyrocketing throughout the whole summer. Now it's a bit different story again in 2023, but also on behalf of many companies out of business due to too high energy prices last year.
So what are you hearing from consumers or your kind of customers, I guess?
Well, I feel it's markets that are being split in two at the moment, where we have the energy company and energy business as a whole, who is actually doing fine and a lot of trading going on and a lot of highly successful traders out there and trading houses. But then you have the industry and normal companies in Denmark, and they have been hugely hit on the energy price crisis, as I always say it is, and had problems paying their bills last year. And to me, that leads us to a point now where we are seeing more and more big industries like the smelters in the northern part of Europe moving away from Europe. Also, we've heard from big chemistry producers that are also considering moving away from Europe to perhaps some areas where they are more keen on putting up an extra coal power plant or something like that. And that is really the issue in a nutshell, that we are having a diverting energy market where we have the consumers on one side and those who have fun on the other. And that is, if that diversification or the split continues, and we just risk more and more businesses are out of business. And while a few have champagne, but in the long run, we should really work together on this.
But do you think it's fair? I mean, in a sense, it's not the energy company's fault that prices went so high. I mean, they were kind of they were trading on the back of that, but it was not their fault that they skyrocketed.
I believe it was a mix because you can't say that nobody from the energy trading houses were driving up prices. I mean, if you are sitting on a winning position and you went long and prices are keep going up, you might be interested in adding to that position. So what I mean is that you can't point fingers of a few here. It it is the whole market that had some lacks and some faults in the construction of it last year, I would say. And but if you look at the very short-term market, because there's a difference between short-term markets and the forwards markets, as I see it. The short-term markets in Denmark, if you look at the trading houses that is growing up here every day, none of them are losing money from day one. A lot of them are making millions day one with little equity to start on. So it more or less, from the consumer end of it, it all looks like that it's a free party to join being a short-term trader. When you then move out the curve and need to hedge the customers' positions and your own position, of course, as an energy company, then it gets a little bit more tricky, because that's then it's all up to politics and the longer look at it. But of course, those prices were also really skyrocketing last year. But that also had was a sort of consequences of what was going on the natural gas market and handing all over, and nobody really knew what was going on and where the top was. So we can't point finger at certain people or certain traders, but something is wrong in the markets when the traders, and especially short-term trading, are making millions out of it from day one, while regular consumers are being put out of work and have to leave houses, their homes, and in Denmark we had like 12 grocery stores in very small local communities. Right, they lost they had energy bills for like 17,000 euros, and they had to close on top of those small extra bills, right? And then you have these three top traders, of course. I know that's the other end of it, but they were to receive like 40 million euros each of them. There's something wrong in those kind of calculations, right?
So you think there's something fundamentally wrong with the market structure that enables, you have such a big spread between winners and losers? Is that what you're saying, Mogens? Or?
Yeah, in some way, but also because the bills of the grids and stuff are put on society, whereas the profits are privatized right now. There is the private traders are in taking money on and I would say it's pure arbitrage between price zones, which could, in some point, you could say it could be done by the two different tiers of each price zone, and then the profits could be shared among those countries. I know that's putting it in a total different direction, but we need at least something that is a little bit more fair at the moment, because the bills and the risk will still be on the consumers, and when or if it goes wrong, and especially those big Danish utility companies that are also moved into speculative trading now, if it goes wrong, well, the bills will end up on the consumers, which have also in some parts their owns, whereas the profits right now are being shared of the few traders, and with huge bonuses on the side, right? So that money will leave the markets, will not go back into society. It will be on private hands, but again, the energy markets need something to be done on the grids for moving forward, and in general, we need for Europe to stand together in this. As I would say, it's kind of an energy price war, because I think we are losing out on some of the big industrial consumers this year as well, and if that just moves to coal-based power production elsewhere, the environment for sure is the big loser in this.
Yeah. So you think, in a sense, these extremely high prices are forcing industry to reassess their location in Europe as an industrial base, and could drive them to other parts of the world where you have less stringent environmental regulation, and hence, maybe more coal burn in the end.
And I can see from a lot of your stories as well that some companies have even been out saying, well, we have to move some or a lot of our consumption away from this area because it's simply too pricey right now, and if not too pricey, well, the risk on being here is maybe growing too big compared to moving into Asia, where a lot more coal power plants are built, but also nuclear on the high rise.
But if I was to be sort of play a bit of devil's advocate here, Mogens, could I say that, well, if it's that easy to set up a short-term intraday trading desk, why don't more consumers do that to save themselves some money?
Why the consumers aren't putting up the trading houses? Well, because, of course, those traders who earn this money, they are clever. And what they are doing is that they are just starting on their own. If you look at who has built these up and rising energy companies, they come from Danish Commodities, who was obviously one of the smartest guys in the room back in the early days, where the short-term trading wasn't that big. And they are all just... They are coming out of those big houses and going on their own after that. So that is also an issue at the moment, that the clever traders leave for trading on their own instead of being in a large utility where some of the focus are also on the customer and the consumers. And that focus are being neglected and have been on a neglecting path for years, in my view, which is... what we saw as a result in 2022, where they totally abandoned the consumers, in my view, for some months at least. Some of the companies, some are maybe not even back providing risk management tools for consumers. So that, there you have it. Actually, you can't say, okay, we want to earn all the money over here, but we want to just park the consumers wherever they are and have some fun. It's too easy, in my view.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's a very interesting aspect. And Morgan, last week we heard, so the clever traders are making money, and the people losing it are the stupid traders. Would you agree?
No. Tell me who the stupid traders are, because in the short-term markets they're not there. Because you have the winners, which is the traders, they're clever. And you have the losers, which is the markets, which is the consumers, which is the society, which is the grids, the TSOs. We pay the bills, but there are... I can't find a company in Denmark. Yes, of course, there is some of the old utility companies which doesn't have the short-term setup as many of these up-and-coming trading houses. But they're the only one losing money. You can't find a single one of these clever quantitative traders that are actually losing money. I'm trying to find it, but it's not there. So I would be happy to hear from your guests a few weeks back who those stupid traders are, because I don't believe there are many stupid traders out there.
Absolutely. And I think, in the wider debate within Denmark, I mean, obviously you're based in Denmark, Mogens. What, you're talking about companies going under, not able to pay their bills, probably household consumers, at sort of families as well as businesses and industry. What kind of, I mean, has this left quite a bad taste in the mouths of many, and how are the politicians reacting?
Well, that is one of the huge problems we are facing right now, is that when we have stories of 40 million euros bonus schemes to one person, right? There are three, obviously, but and comparing that to small societies where grocery stores are now closed, which will hurt all of that local community, because without a grocery store, many will just go under in a few years. So there is this kind of diverting tension going on where, and that is actually what I'm trying also to gap that bridge between the consumers and the producers on the other hand, because I believe we need to work together also on behalf of the environment, because we can't say that, okay, you are a consumer, you need to pay all of this because you are consuming it. Well, we also have someone on the other end who's also taking part of it, and who is also at the moment lifting some of the burdens. But we need to work together on this, and especially after 2022, where we have some damage control to do. if you look in the public in Denmark, it's some people are not quite happy about what's going on, and also now we have those stories about traders going to jail, and we also have had 49 smaller utility companies being accused for cartels, and we have some other small utilities who lost millions of Danish kroner on pure speculative trading positions coming from those boards of those companies. It's diverted, or it's splitting the population instead of us moving together in the boat and trying to get the best out of it. Because we have had well-functioning energy markets for decades, and I would agree with those guests you had that we have well-functioning markets, and maybe we don't need those ceiling prices and stuff like that, but we need to be better at also taking the consumers into consideration than just plowing against getting the profits in the books.
So would you say the energy sector in Denmark faces quite a lot of reputational damage here, or has that damage already been done?
I think they have something to manage going forward. And that's also because you had these large cooperative companies that goes way back over 100 years, some of them. And some of those big companies have made those trading houses themselves because, of course, they smelled where the profit were. But when they, at the same time, maybe they own some production capacity as well and have a huge trading house, and then the consumers were left hanging when the shit hit the fan last year. There is something to be cleaned up there, and of course some of them have been out saying that, okay, most of our profits will go back into our owners and the community. And so it's already started, and it's not just, I don't want to just sit here and point fingers, because those big cooperatives are also, they have had a magnificent role in the last centuries, or last decades, because they have also been the ones moving fiber optics to the countryside, and that couldn't have been done. I would say if we just had the pure speculative trading houses. I don't think they would have put money into that. So they are very, very important in Denmark. But looking at it right now, they need to also put some focus back into the consumers and their own owners.
Do you think it's important to maintain, a split between social policy and economic policy? Is there a danger that you might, confuse one and the other, and that could create more unintended consequences for the market?
I believe that's a little bit of a toxic area you're coming into now, because what we are seeing is that if I take my Danish glasses on now and I look to Norway, you have some socio-economics in place where the private consumers, I believe, are being subsidized for most of the energy bills. And we have cables to Norway. We are in December this year, I think we have the Viking link up and running to England, who is also having support schemes for small businesses and households. In Denmark, we don't really have that. So while we are this interconnected, a small country as Denmark are having huge cables to foreign countries, and we are seeing support schemes in our neighboring countries, how are we going to explain that to the Danish consumer going forward? Because I don't think the Viking link this fall will be lowering the Danish energy bills for sure, as the English price for energy has been higher than the Danish back in history. But of course, and also if you look at southern Norway, you see kind of the problem there as well, right? It is hard to explain why they are having this huge bills at the moment, whereas the northern part of Norway is, of course, still one of the very cheap areas. But those cables, and that is why I also need to say that I believe we need to see it in a little bit bigger perspective, that we need to take on the European glasses here, that we need to see it as a whole, because we can't subsidize our own countries and then expect our neighbors to find that fine, because how are you going to say to Finland that okay, you have been taking the cost for building Olkiluoto 3 now, we want part of it, although we are subsidizing our own consumers and you are not, but we still want part of what you building. And that has been the same issue in Sweden, right, where they also say that, okay, Denmark doesn't even want nuclear power. Why on earth are they to receive some of our cheap prices? So we need to come together and work together on this, and not just focus on the short-term profits. It's too dangerous, in my view.
Absolutely. There's a very, as you highlighted here very well, Mogens, the risk of fragmentation and the risk of sort of looking inwardly rather than trying to create this a regional or a pan-European model, which will benefit most of us in the long run. But I think I agree that the cables are very much a hot potato politically in Norway as well as in other countries, and that's very clear. And it's certainly when prices were going through the roof. But if I can then, ask you, Mogens, what is the answer here? What should, how should the markets be tweaked? Is it just at the times of these price extremes, or should there be some kind of measures put in place that will do what you say, that will make the profits more equitable for society and for consumers?
I believe we can find some sort of mix, because we don't want to tell all of these clever traders that you are out of business tomorrow. But I believe that this arbitrage going on between different price zones, we need more of that to go back to society than has been happening in the last years. Of course, it was most obvious last year when prices were skyrocketing and the profits as well. But we simply need to find some kind of model where it is not only the profits that are privatized, but also some of the grid costs and the build-up of our energy systems throughout Europe. We need to come a little bit close together. I think there's a funny way you can look at it. If you look at us and have a view that we are having hyperinflation tomorrow, all of those profits will be gone. But if we reinvest some of it into our societies, we will still have those benefits of maybe a stronger grid or stronger communities where we use it smarter and better. And so that is one of the ways I view it, that if we have hyperinflation tomorrow, what is the best for us right now? And that's not just looking at profits, and because of course the bank accounts are skyrocketing at the moment. But with hyperinflation, that won't be worth much in a couple of weeks then. So how do we get this money to work on behalf of society at the moment?
I mean, these are important questions, of course. And, at the same time in Denmark, you've seen also allegations of market manipulation. Certainly, you mentioned earlier some traders have been imprisoned. Do you think that the surveillance is adequate enough? I mean, from what I gather, this has been... The allegations started in March 2021 and around to March 2023. I mean, is there something wrong with the way that the oversight of the markets?
Now, just to state that I'm not going into that exact case, but looking at the time I was in the market myself, trading and how it was. I would say we have a lot of surveillance in the markets, but I would also say that it can be easy to find ways to, I would say, move around those strictly compliant rules, and because it's simply too hard for outsiders to understand many parts of the energy markets, because it's not the same as trading a stock where you have a seller and a buyer, and those there you can calculate the profits. But here you have so many factors moving in, and you have a lot of interconnectors. You have a lot of price area zones, and a lot of the time dimension as well, and so it is kind of hard, and I don't think there are many energy energy experts working for, like in Denmark, the NSK, the National Security Police, for who has been looking into this. But I hope there's not much fraud going on, but I can see it as a possibility still.
Okay, because these markets are very complex. There's just so much going on, and that maybe there's a problem with the expertise and the knowledge of those that are overseeing them. Is that what you're saying, Mogens?
Yeah, you can say that. Of course, I know Nord Pool and Nasdaq as well is of course highly qualified to find most, and that could also be why we are seeing those cases arising. But in Denmark, it's not my opinion that we have many energy experts working for the police, and it is complex markets.
So more could be done there, absolutely. Do you think that there will be some kind of backlash from politicians about what's happening? Because we still see some companies have yet to announce their results, and some big Danish trading houses, as you mentioned, and if they also show bumper profits, what could the reaction be, Mogens?
Yeah, I think we have some of the two top performers left in Denmark to see profits from them. I would expect that, and I think it was last week some of the windfall tax decisions were made in Denmark, but then again the middlemen, which to my knowledge is those trading houses doing speculative trading as their sole purpose, have been left out. They are not part of this, so it's maybe big oil companies that has been making windfall profits last year, and some of the big utilities maybe also, but leaving the middlemen out is just pure nonsense, and that is also why I at some point think that there is someone somewhere in the political landscape of Denmark that doesn't really fully comprehend what is going on in the energy markets, because of course if you are a pure speculative trading house, why on earth shouldn't you be paying those windfall taxes? Because they are not having anything to do with regular consumers. Of course, you will say that they optimize the markets, moving the power around, as your guests a couple of weeks ago also highlighted, and that could be true to some extent, but it is still happening in spreadsheets and quantitative models. Those profits are made, so I can't see why they are left out of windfall taxes.
Yep, absolutely. We'll see. I mean, certainly one of the points made a couple of weeks ago as well, and in media, is that these companies are paying a lot in taxes as well to the Danish government as a result of their bumper.
Of course, and
profits.
And that is a neat thing. But again, if you look back at looking at it, that if we have the hyperinflation, what will it be worth tomorrow? And those small grocery stores and other companies in Denmark which has been closed, they're closed for good, I think. And some of the big smelters of aluminum and chemistry industry that are moving away now, I don't think it will be easy to get those coming back to Europe, because it's a massive cost that they are facing moving away from Europe. So the problem is kind of bigger than the short-term profits, but also the short-term tax payments. But of course, they are also creating a lot of jobs in Denmark. So it's not to point fingers, but we need to just have the whole picture in our considerations.
Yeah, and thank you very much for providing that side, the point of view of the consumers here, Mogens. I think that's an important aspect that needs to be taken into perspective when we're talking about the wider issues and what's happening in Denmark. But we'll follow this very closely. So hopefully, in the not too distant future, we'll speak again. But in the meantime, Mogens, thank you very much for joining the Montel Weekly podcast.
Thank you very much for that.